I think you hit the nail on the head about technology. And
Yeah.
actually, I love technology.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I love it. I appreciate what it's done. I just think it, it's been abused because people have just stepped from entry to technology. And they left all the fundamental basics behind, so they never had a chance to grasp it or to appreciate it. So
Yeah,
I
it's
think
like
for me, that's the
it's
issue.
like shooting with an analog still camera and a digital one. Most people haven't shot with an analog one, and the digital ones are so automatic that you
Right.
don't even know what an f-stop is, and
Does
a
it
light
relate,
meter,
Hawk?
and yeah, and that's the basic stuff that you should know. And
Right. But I mean, in a way, does videography, in some of the fundamentals, correlate with astronomy as well?
Absolutely.
Right?
Oh yes.
Because you're teaching, I don't know, it's analog, isn't it?
Yeah,
Film?
well, it's always analog in the beginning because you're going through a lens there, right?
Right.
There's no such a thing as a digital lens.
Well, nobody's observing.
Right. They still need that.
It's
they need
I'm
a digital.
analog when I'm viewing visually, right?
Yes. There's a digital
digital with
lens
the camera.
even when they're taking long exposures. They have to go. There has to be analog in the beginning, and it has to be analog in the end.
Right. So they're doing.
But
Yeah.
they get lost in the digital portion of it and forget about the analog portion.
Yeah, that's what we're dealing with now.
Yeah.
At least what I'm dealing with on a daily basis.
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
Which can be a little flustering.
That's what I
a
was
little,
gonna say,
or
yeah.
slightly, or very
Yeah,
flustering.
depending on the conversation you're having.
Or depending on who it is, So.
Technology has taken over, and visual astronomy has sort of taken a back seat to it. But
Right.
when I started when I was a kid in astronomy, but then left it. But 20 years ago, when I got back into it, visual astronomy was still strong, and there was a belief that you should be able to look at the sky and find anything star hopping by just looking at the relationship of patterns in the sky and going, oh,
Right.
M13 is there, point your telescope at it, find it, and look at it.
Right.
And I think with the advent of go-to, everything automated, that's drifted away. And also light pollution is really hurting astronomy, and people want to see things, and it's hard for them to even star hop in the city because there's not enough stars to hop from.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course. I share the same viewpoint with you. I think I do want to. I'd say I do like the technology, but I think people just jump to it. I think for me, and I like polar alignment. People don't understand the basic fundamentals of polar aligning at all. It's like just that part of it. But I guess if you don't have to do it, then you don't have to do it. If you don't have to learn it, then you don't have to learn it.
Yeah, I think right, and I think they're not really. I guess they become aware of how the sky moves over time when they're having to learn to do these things, but they don't go right out. Like, they buy all this equipment.
Right.
And
they buy a lot of technology.
Yeah, and they go, well, you got a point there at the North Celestial Pole, which is near Polaris.
Right.
And then they start realizing, oh, that part of the sky doesn't move at night, and things are circling around it, and then the stuff in the south is moving across. But I don't think they learn that first. I think
they don't.
No.
They have to find that out after.
Yeah,
right?
they find it out through.
Right. The old tradition was you got binoculars, you learn the sky. Now you buy a camera, and then you find out there's a thing called polar alignment.
Yes,
so in order for the camera to work, you got to be polar aligned.
Right.
See, I did everything the opposite.
Yeah, the opposite. They're learning in a reverse fashion, I guess you'd call it.
I think for me, though, what I find disturbing, though, is that everything's gone backwards. Like, it's just, I took it in increments. And then, but in 1992, they didn't have anywhere near the technology we have today. We didn't have the availability of cameras that they have today. So, but the funny thing to me is like, all the conversations are just about software or processing, which I'm really, honestly, not into,
Right.
So
right.
To me, it's just, I'm not a photographer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and even
I didn't get on astronomy to be a photographer.
Right. Right. You wanted to experience.
I want to experience nature.
A natural phenomena that's very immense and profound.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
The idea, the concept.
That this is all happening.
Rotates. That there's this connection we have with nature. I remember when Vernon Kiefer took me to Joshua Tree. It was a really profound experience. And we're driving into the eastern entrance. Heading towards Jumbo Rock at Joshua Tree.
Where it's a little darker.
Near 29 Palms.
Yeah.
we're going through the mountains, and he says to me, he says, do you feel this place? And I said, yeah, I do. I feel this place. I really get it. I get how this, the spiritual connection you have to it. And it's like you feel like you're an earthling on Earth in nature,
Yeah.
I always bring up Burnham because he was a mentor to me.
Right.
Because that was what inspired me, all that connection to nature. And he said, he was talking about the mountains. But when you talk to people that are into imaging, they don't talk about anything like that. They just talk about software, and they talk about Windows, and they talk about, Macintosh.
No, that's...
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It has nothing to do for me. It's a total disconnect for me.
Yeah, and for me,
So-
it's a mixed bag, because primarily I started as a visual astronomer and have been getting into astrophotography.
Right.
And I really have a love-hate relationship with it, because it just goes down that rabbit hole of minutia in processing, and you start to spend more time staring at a computer screen and comparing your work to others, and that's really not the experience you have when you're doing visual astronomy. You're looking at an object and just
contemplating
it, right? You're not.
I suppose you could do that with imaging if a person had that interest. I
try to do it with it, and that's why in my imaging I try not to process it the way I see it being processed on the internet, which is
it's not very loud.
Yeah, I call it the what's my name for it?
I call it
psychedelic
the
spaceships. That's what.
They look like Ferris wheels.
Yeah, Ferris wheels. You said was perfect.
The galaxies with all the H2 regions all
these little things,
scattered about like
little pink dots, and it's like. And then people think, well, that's how the universe looks, and it doesn't look like that. There are colorful objects in the universe, but not galaxies in particular. They're, Okay, so you were talking about your friends. I think it was a lady friend that had a...
Dee, a friend of mine. She's really sweet.
Yeah.
She brought a mirror. I think it was an 8-inch mirror that she got, and it the optics looked so filthy. The worst I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
And what I was saying, we were looking through it. You couldn't tell anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just.
So, please believe us in this. It's just, it's not. That's not what's causing trouble. What's causing trouble is
that's why they came up with the
seeing.
Atmospheric scenes.
That's
and Cooldown.
And Cooldown. Yes, let's talk about Cooldown.
We do the Cooldown. I don't know if we could get this crush all this in 30 minutes. But,
right. Yeah. Should we talk about Cooldown or just quickly?
I just think people have a lot of misconceptions about it, but I think just basic thing, any scope, just let it acclimate a little bit.
Yeah.
Give it some time.
Wherever it's going to be.
Yeah.
Get it out there and
get out there early, or store it in a cool area, like in a cellar.
Exactly. In the summer, I keep mine inside.
Yeah.
Right, and then so it's in an air-conditioned place. So by the evening, what happens where I live in the desert, it cools down. So by the time I bring it out, it's equal. And then in the winter, I leave it in the garage, and it stays about the same temperature as outside.
You just want it to be as close to ambient temperature.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, there's a lot of technical stuff. It wouldn't be practical.
Yes.
To discuss it, but but from a practical standpoint, just let it at the same room temperature roughly. That's
Give
all
it a
you want
chance to be the
Yeah, people race to premature conclusions sometimes. Now, I just had a recent experience where the guy bought a 10-inch Newtonian, calls me, and this is after I explained so many things to him. He says, I just looked at Mars recently. Yeah. Just recently. I don't know what time he did it, but he said it looked really like a speck. And I said, well,
that's because it is.
Right. Now. I don't know if I like the scope. It doesn't, I didn't know it was going to look like this. And I said, hold on a second. I said, it's like a surfer who goes out and tries to surf in the wrong season, right?
Right.
There's a certain season when the waves are good, and a certain season when the waves are
just
bad, right?
Flat.
Same thing with astronomy,
That's a very good,
analogy. So
yeah, you have to really have some knowledge about, with your example of Mars, only every 2 years and for a few months is it large at all, and the rest of the time you can still see it, but it's going to be a red speck at Mount Palomar.
Right. Yeah. At Mount Palomar.
Yeah.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
In fact, it's going to look horrible.
In fact, it's going to be worse. It's because of that. It's going to pick up all the atmosphere.
Glowing blob.
Blob. Yeah. So it's not your telescope. It's.
Yeah. So I explained that to him.
That's a good analogy. Yeah. There's a season for
for planet season.
Planet
Right.
season,
Certain
and
time
when they're
of seeing
close.
is
And,
good, air stability.
yeah, there's it all. Yeah, just like surfing, right? You could have giant waves,
Right.
but then if the wind is blowing sideways and makes it all choppy, it's just going to be terrible. You're not going
Right.
to be enjoying it.
It's hard for people because they buy a new scope, they spend $1,000.
Right.
They have
right.
high expectations. And I don't know if that's like they expect to see what they see in Hubble or what it is, and which brings back what I wanted to say is that when you look visually, things are very dim. And people complain about that.
Yeah.
For
yeah,
me,
right.
it's I have an excitement with that. It doesn't bug me. I mean, look at Don Penzak. He's nuts. And
Yeah.
he'll look at 50th magnitude galaxy in daylight.
Yeah.
No, but I mean,
No, it is
No, but
pretty
he-
amazing when he's going, take a look at this,
Right,
John.
and you can barely
and
see
I
it.
look in there and I see,
right. But he appreciates the
Yes,
subtleties.
yes.
That's where it's
Yeah,
at. To
yeah.
me, that to me is the gift of
that's a good
observation.
point. Yeah, yeah. He's
You
stretching
appreciate
his,
those subtle things.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like you see a faint smudge or something. It has so much meaning behind it.
Yeah,
But
because
I
you know how bright it is and
Yeah.
how far away it is and how difficult it is to see, and that's kind of
and
exciting.
You appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is. It's Burnham talked about that. These faint, fuzzy lights. You know, what compels the observer to come back is the idea of knowing what it is
Right.
that compels them to
Yeah.
come back again and again. You know, and I don't know. Some people get it and some people don't. If they want to take pictures, fine, be it.
Yeah, I think it's actually good because I
Yeah.
think it's gonna. Luigi had mentioned something. Our friend Luigi.
Yeah.
That pretty soon everybody's just going to be have these telescopes that don't have eyepieces
Right, I saw
anymore.
that. You guys
And
were
they'll just
texting
be-
back and forth.
But they'll just be looking at an iPhone, and it'll be essentially just a,
Digital
because digital photography will improve so much in the next 10 years that you'll be able.
Right,
They
to
already
do
have
that.
a scope like that sort of does that.
Right.
Yeah, they'll just be looking at everything in your iPhone. But and I texted back to him. I said, but there's something I don't think people will ever miss is viewing Saturn on a
Right.
good night
Right.
directly through glass. You know what I mean? And
But
mirrors.
you know, I think the problem people have with it, I sincerely mean this, I think where they're located, they just have bad seeing conditions. I mean, there was
Exactly.
people with these, I heard
yeah.
stories on cloudy nights where people had 7-inch refractors and they could only see 2 bands on Jupiter. I'm like, oh man, you have no idea what
Yeah.
you're missing. You know?
Yep, and people have never seen the red spot on Jupiter.
Exactly.
And I'm going,
And that's what they're coping with.
Yeah, they're
so
coping
to
with it.
some aspect, I get the digital
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
I understand to that extent.
That way
know.
you get the connection, and
Yeah.
and you're in an area where like
If the connection is of interest to them.
yeah
you know,
I guess at least they're exploring the universe, right?
Yeah.
So
But for me, the thing that disconnects me from most of these people is why it is just, it's like they come in with their smartphones, it's an image of M42, or it's an image of the Rosette, or it's an image of M31, and that's about the extent of it. It doesn't go any deeper than that. Do they know anything, or do they appreciate anything about it, other than the face value? I was complaining about this on cloudy nights. I'm sorry, I'm on a rant. It's just,
no, this is an important thing.
You know?
I think people should spend more time reading about astronomy.
Yeah.
And about celestial mechanics and
Right.
and about distances and what the objects are.
And maybe that just genuinely doesn't interest them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Or so it seems,
Yeah.
because I'll ask them just for fun.
Yeah.
I'll ask these people, do you know the planets in order, just out of curiosity? None of them do.
Really?
They don't know.
God, I mean, that was
Clueless.
so important to me as a
Clueless.
child. I
Right.
just had to know that. I had
Yeah.
to know how far away the galaxies were. It was
Yeah.
just like this,
They don't care. It doesn't
They
matter
just wanna
because
make
they're
an-
not. Their mindset is that's not what they're interested.
Yeah.
Their interest is they want to show everybody this pretty picture.
yes, which
And I
is,
love pretty pictures.
Yeah,
don't get
yeah.
me wrong.
But
It's
they
the
could.
behind it. It's the depth of it. It's
Yeah,
the
I guess
deeper
you
meaning of
could.
it.
What would be
suppose.
the answer to that? Is say, boy, there's other types of food than
Just
steak
visual.
and potatoes, right? Like there's a palate that,
Right.
and when you taste these other ones, you'll be amazed.
Right.
But you have to taste them. You
Right.
have to know where the restaurant is.
I don't think they want to taste
They
it.
don't- you just don't go to Lenny's Steakhouse every night, right? Because you're always going to get either a lobster or a steak, right?
Right.
Which is M42 or whatever. Yeah.
You know what this is? This is 21st century.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this is what we're dealing with. 21st century astronomy.
Yeah.
It's just-
Yeah. You're right.
It
You're
is
right.
a
You're right,
digital.
you're right.
Now we got more cameras than the Queen Mary's got rivets.
Yep.
I got camera companies approaching us with these knockoffs of other brands. There's a lot of rebranding going on. It's the same sensors,
Right, right.
You know, being put in
Sony
different
sensor
bodies,
in a different body.
different software.
Yeah.
I'm still disturbed by these conversations about they're just photography conversations.
Yeah, I guess they see themselves as landscape photographers of the sky.
Of this guy.
Yeah.
I call him the celestial paparazzi personally. It's just me.
I'm trying to
I'm trying
to give them a little slack, but
No,
I do agree with you.
Hey, you know what though? I'm glad you're diving into it.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
you deserve it because you've gone through everything. You know, you're even doing your astronomy and stuff at CalArts and stuff. It's just fun
it's like
and stuff. And you teach them the constellation.
Yeah, I teach them the you know,
Yeah,
and then they freak out a little bit when they see how small they're shocked at how small
Yeah.
Saturn looks when you go, this
Right.
is so small. I go, it's okay. Just look at it for a while.
Yeah, think about it.
And then they go, oh yeah, I see more details now.
Right.
Ooh, wow.
Right. Yeah,
And I
go
go,
on.
are you sure you're right? Quite in focus?
Yeah.
Try that little knob and oh
Yeah.
my
Focus
God!
it.
It
They
looks
didn't know
like
you focused.
it looks like a decal that doesn't look real,
Yeah, it looks so
and they
real.
get all excited. That's really there, and you
Yeah,
know,
I know.
yeah. And
Most people think it's a
they
picture.
get over that it's so small.
There
you
we
know?
go. Yeah. And it can be very large if the area is stable and you
Yes.
can push the magnification.
And I have had nights and shown them that, and they go, wow, geez, that's impressive. Yeah, they don't know that the atmosphere is what's limiting how large I can make it for them.
Yeah.
It's not the telescope.
If the atmosphere is stable, you
Yeah.
can increase the magnification.
Magnification, yes.
You know. So, you know, Los Angeles is where I did most of my planet observing. We have the onshore flow, we're in the LA basin, we have Mount Wilson, right?
Right.
So here we have good air stability seeing conditions because of the ocean air. If you go into the valley, the deltas are 20 degrees. So let's say it's 90 or 100 degrees in the valley. I drive over the mountain, past the Getty Center on the 405 freeway. As soon as I
Right.
hit the LA basin, it will drop from 90 to say 70.
70, correct.
You know, just like that.
Yeah.
Because the air temperature from the ocean, it keeps everything stable. It's like a constant flow of air.
Yes, because there's so much ocean
yeah, it's consistent.
to keep it. Yeah,
it
right.
stable.
But they're blocked from it, so they can go way high in the
high
day
and way
and
low.
at
And you
night.
get those deltas, the scope can't keep up. And then what it does is kicks up eddies
Right.
as well. So you have bad seeing. You have good transparency,
Yeah.
but you have bad seeing. That's why I always tell people seeing, one of the ways you know when the seeing is good is when there's a haze or an inversion layer over the atmosphere. That usually is indicative of stable air, not the other way around. So, and it's hard. People can't
Yeah, I have
conceptualize that.
they can,
Yeah.
and I have trouble with my students. They go,
Yeah.
I go, yeah, there's some great places to view planets in Los Angeles. And they go, well,
Right.
well, there's so much light pollution. I go, no. Planets are so bright, they're unaffected by light pollution.
Exactly.
They're affected by air turbulence.
Exactly.
And I write it on that. I go, air turbulence equals seeing, S-E-E-I-N-G. And you'll hear astronomers talk about seeing, and you go, what are they talking about seeing? I can see through the sky. It looks
Right.
clear. No, there's another term called transparency. And we all know what that means. If something's transparent, you can see through it. And if it's hazy, you can. If it's opaque, you can't see at all, right? Which would be cloudy, right? You can't
Right,
see the
of course.
sky. Yeah, yeah. So that's something that I think gets overlooked too. Is
Yeah, and there's certain seasons when the seeing's good, meaning the stability of the air. So
Correct.
You know, sometimes you know how I find out about what a person understands or knows is by listening to them. You know,
yes,
because they say all the wrong things. So
Yeah.
you know, okay, now you know what this person knows.
It's so clear out tonight. Why does Jupiter look so bad?
right,
That's transparency.
right,
There's another factor, seeing, which is turbulence, and it's
Right.
very turbulent. It can be very transparent and clear,
right.
but very turbulent, and vice versa.
It's so funny because it's the irony of this is that everybody's driving out to the desert where it's sometimes often the worst place to have seeing conditions.
Yes.
So deserts are, I always have to tell them you don't need to go to a desert to look at the solar system.
No.
It's actually you don't want to go there.
No, you don't want to go to the desert.
You want to go there to look at deep sky.
Yes, that's good for galaxies and nebula, deep sky, but
Yeah.
not so because of the light. This would be great for, well, no, you know, when you get altitude, it helps for deep sky.
Yeah,
So I live at 2,500 feet, and even though I'm in the desert, I'm in a kind of in a pretty good zone where there's a mountain
Your
and it
seeing's
comes
pretty good
down, and
there
I get
sometimes.
decent seeing there. Yeah,
not bad.
And I've had a few nights of almost perfect seeing, but nothing like being near the ocean, like where you live here.
I'm, trying to find focus, seeing so bad.
Yes.
I think that's what he was talking about was, where some people try to find focus because the seeing is so bad they don't know where focus is sometimes. But there's different types of seeing. I've seen it where it looks like a jet stream, Always check jet stream.
Yes. There's many, if you get deep into seeing, which
Right.
equals turbulence,
Right.
there's many levels. There's local seeing, which is like the
the immediate
heat
areas.
coming off of say it was a hot day
Pavement
and then it
or
cools
whatever.
down, it's coming off, so that could
Sure.
affect it. There's
Does.
rooftops, right?
Sure.
And then there's kind of mid-level seeing where it's these pockets of air interacting with each other. And then there's a crucial thing, which you just mentioned, is
Yeah.
the jet stream.
Right.
So anybody who's into both photographic and visual astronomy should look on the internet and find a good chart that shows where the jet stream is
Right.
at the day you're going to observe, and check it, because some
Yeah.
days it's going right over your location, and it can look beautifully clear, and the seeing might be good down below, but the jet stream is just killing it.
CRWS is where I've normally looked, but they've had it down for a while.
They've had it down
For a little while. I
Yeah,
don't know
that
what's
was my
going on with
favorite
that.
spot.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, because it said, I went to it, it says illegal or blocked or something now.
I have no idea what's going on with
Yeah.
it, but there's other sites.
There's
you can
other
do it.
sites, yeah.
You can do it.
So jet stream, everybody should become aware of the jet stream that's into astronomy. That's
People are
important.
using Astrospheric. They also use the clear sky charts.
Yeah.
But Astrospheric seems to be getting
good,
some
yeah.
press. People seem to like it, and Darren likes it, and it seems to work out okay. I mean, it's not going to fully predict everything accurate. It's
No,
hard.
but it gives you an idea.
Gives you an idea of it.
Yeah.
And I find it to work. I think if you can get up high, though, and you have good seeing, then you have good seeing and transparency. That's just dynamite.
That's
sometimes.
dynamite, yeah, which is Mount Wilson.
Right.
Right.
And then there's some situations where you actually have these inversion layers that add a kind of a color tone to the planets. It's just weird. And there's been a number of astronomers online that have talked about it, myself included, where sometimes that looks incredible. So it's almost like a
certain
filter, kind of,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Warming
A
filter. or
tint,
something.
yeah.
A tint.
Yeah.
And it adds a kind of a beautiful look to it. But it's all this stuff comes through experience.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's all, and once again, going back to the surfing analogy, there's not good surf every day.
I know, and this is the thing people don't understand about astronomy.
Yeah.
There's a certain time when there's galaxies,
Yeah.
to observe galaxies in the spring,
Yeah.
You got the summer sky, Milky Way in the summer.
Yeah, and it's not
know?
going to be that great, and the seeing usually isn't very good in the winter. It's
Yeah.
just not. That's usually good in late spring and summer, and so there's.
I remember when I was at Charlton Flats with Vernon Kiefer, and he was saying to me, because of the close proximity of Jupiter, the orbit of, Saturn and Jupiter.
Right.
Jupiter's going to spend roughly, a year in every zodiacal constellation.
Yes, 1 year it moves
Yeah,
through.
so it's going to move, which also is going to impact the season that you're going to see it as well at some
Right.
point as well.
Yeah.
Slowly over time
Yeah.
and stuff. And that's the thing, there's certain times of season when the air is very stable. And if the rising of the planets don't coincide with that time, that throws you off.
Yeah.
So there's all these things that are involved with it that people have to learn through experience and time. It's just so much to absorb at a quick
Yeah, and I
period,
think
right?
it's a great thing to investigate and talk about. It's an interesting conversation. All
It
the minutia in.
You teach it in your class, though.
What?
I think you teach it in your class.
I do, and most of them, they get into
They
it.
get it.
They get it. Yeah.
I don't want to go off subject too much, but I'm blown away at the females' ability to discern colors of stars. That is always whenever I work with your students, that's one of the things that has fascinated me.
And then also it's the same with their hearing. So I don't know what they can hear much higher frequencies than that. So
I didn't know about that.
Oh yeah.
But I do know about colors.
They have that. Yeah.
Well, they did some surveys with females on carbon stars. And
oh really? They did actual studies.
Study
Okay.
to detect the tonality of color with carbon stars. And females, I'm sorry guys, but they have a slight advantage.
The advantage, yeah. If you're a little bit lazy and you want to be
Wait, the lazy astronomer?
The lazy astronomer, and you want to be the greatest astro imager, don't buy anything. you can rent time
Right, you
on
could.
telescopes that are much better than the one you can afford.
Right, and somebody's there to maintain them.
Right, and
Right.
it'll go right to the object, go in focus, and you just get the information and
Right.
process it with all those fancy programs you bought. That's the only money you're going to have to spend, which aren't that much, and you'll come off with.
Yeah.
You'll look good.
Good results.
And you've never touched a telescope in your life.
Right.
Yeah. No, but
Collect your data.
I'm just
But
I'm kind of joking, but
No, but the visual astronomers do it too.
Yeah.
Right? Where they either look through a window or like, Simon said earlier, they'll look through the door.
Yeah.
And here's a funny thing that people don't know this about, I'm big time into temperature change and Schlieren photography.
Right.
I'm very fascinated by it. But whenever you open a door or you have a scope near a door, you're exchanging warm air from your house to cold air, and that's why sometimes if I'm opening the door at the store and I'm testing a scope, like as soon as you open and you look through the scope, you see this turbulence because the air from outside's interacting with the air. It's so funny because it's hot outside. It's the other way around.
Yeah.
Some people want to look, I don't know if they're lazy astronomers or what you would call them.
Yeah, well, I guess we're talking about.
A little bit of
there's
guys.
some. Yeah, when getting back to visual astronomy, there's times of the year when it's where I live. It's 2,500 feet, and it's going to be 28 degrees.
Yeah, you don't want to be outside. That's annoying.
And I used to do it when I was younger, and I'd come in and I would actually be radiating cold. My wife would feel me like she'd go, John, you're like you're like a.
It looked like a mug out of a freezer.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, and you see all that.
You can feel the person
cold,
like 2 feet away that they're But I would be so obsessed that what I was looking at, I wouldn't notice it. And I of course have a hoodie on and 3 layers.
I understand. Not everybody's in California either.
No.
Bill P on cloudy nights.
Yeah.
I talk to him all the time.
Yeah.
He's out in the coldest temperature, and I'm telling him like 40, 50 degrees is cold. He's like, that's a summer for us, man. You wimp. What's wrong with you? I'm like, we're spoiled in California.
We are spoiled, yes.
Yeah. So we're not, some of these people, what they're dealing with is pretty tough.
Yes.
The cold air and environments and being exposed to the elements.
And then the humidity. We don't have much of that. So they have to have straps on everything, right?
Right, yeah.
And we rarely have to, So, but it's all about desire.
Yeah.
Overcoming obstacles, right? If you really want it, you're going to do it, right?
Yeah. Totally, you will.
So
and fundamentally, I think what matters most, and I know it sounds corny, is if you're enjoying it, that's fine. If you're an imager and you enjoy imaging an image, if you enjoy, looking through your window through your telescope and it's fun,
then it's fine. Yes.
As long as you're happy, right?
As long as it's bringing you.
I'm not happy.
No.
But
finding your place in astronomy. You don't have to, worry about the ultimate. Move away from gear envy and 10th wave versus 8th wave and lean a little bit towards more the enjoyment of being out in nature and experiencing the universe and getting in touch with something that actually created you.
Right. To me, fundamentally,
we're a product of this, right?
Yeah. Totally. And fundamentally, to me, that is that's the driving spirit behind it, to me. That's why I still struggle with this connection with all this digital stuff, and I have to accept it because it is
popular, and people enjoy it. They are enjoying the universe. And I guess the only advice I would say is maybe spend a little less time processing and a little more time reading about astronomy, the history.
But you see, to me, that fundamentally is what I find missing in it. Because if you don't read about it and you don't understand it, right?
Yeah.
And you see a subtle thing, it may not have any meaning because there's nothing known about it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it can be very profound. It's like I mentioned 3C273 in Virgo. The quasar that you can see.
It's a speck, right?
Right, it's a speck. You can see it in a 10-inch, 8-inch, 10-inch
right.
scope.
And then when you realize how far away it is, then
just the whole idea. And Burnham did a whole write-up on it and stuff. And then I saw it. I went, oh my goodness, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I actually saw it in my yard in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Wow. My 12.5-inch scope. Yeah. It blew me away.
Yeah.
So, that kind of thing just really moves me. I can't believe I'm sitting
Yeah, so it's always great to have these
Steady skies, guys.
these chats with you. Here comes
Yeah, it was good to chat with you.
a
Steady guy. Don't worry about your Fresnel patterns. Just get out, enjoy, observe.
Yeah, and remember, everybody does this. You always want to blame your telescope for it not looking. It's probably something else. It's probably seeing first off,
Yeah.
So
to me, I use the golf club analogy. It's like you buy a new set of golf clubs, you don't birdie or par every hole, you think something's wrong with the golf clubs, you got to return.
perfect.
Right?
Yeah, that's good.
I didn't surf get away, my surfboard's defective. I got to take my surfboard back.
That's right. A good analogy is
This-
the best thing in the world.
Yeah, to make
Because it makes things clear. Yes.
Yeah, it makes sense
that
clear.
golf the club thing is perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah. Okay.